Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. And the year 2024 is upon us. In fact, as I record this, we're already a couple of weeks into the new year. So what do the next 12 months look like in terms of new camera body releases? And what does 2024 have in store for us? Let's take a quick look. So I'm going to start with the Canon EOS R1, and if you're kind of a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that I've already done a couple of videos about the R1 over the last 12 or 13 months. It is eagerly anticipated, and while we don't have that big announcement from Canon as of yet, we do know there is confirmation that it is in development. What else do we know about it? Well, very little. We do know that it is going to be Canon's flagship body taken over from the 1DX Mark III. That was released back in 2020, so we're very much due for an upgrade. Now we're 4 years on from that point. Obviously, a couple of years ago, the Canon R3 came out. That was an incredibly impressive body. However, despite what some people said at the time, that was never intended to be the successor to the 1DX range, nor was it ever Canon's flagship camera. That said, it was a very impressive body nonetheless. So what do we know of the R1? Well, we know it'll be mirrorless, we know it'll be full frame. Everything else is pretty much speculative at this point. There was speculation it might have a global shutter. Now the speculation is that global shutter will not actually take shape on the R1 at all, and that functionality may be tested on another Canon body with a view to releasing that down the line. Again, it's speculation, we don't know. Given that there are so many unknowns, let's talk a little bit about when the release of this body may be. Now, if you know the history of Canon's flagship body releases, so the 1DX range, let's talk about that. They always release them in the year of a Summer Olympic Games. Now, if you're a sports fan like myself, you might well know that the Olympic Games take place this summer, starting in July and running through until August, and they take place in Paris in France. This means that you can expect the R1 will definitely come out this year, or I'm almost certain of the fact that it will come out this year. Looking at when we might see an announcement, could be a little while yet. However, the Canon 1DX Mark III, which came out in 2020, that I think was announced around the 6th of January. We've already passed that date as I record this. And the body was then available to buy and released on February 1st. So there's not always a big turnaround time between announcement and release. We do expect that to be a little bit different in the case of the R1. I'm going to drop a video within the coming days all about the R1 and what that release period and announcement period might look like, and whether there's going to be a kind of time frame where that is teased out rather than the full-on announcement and release date. So please check that out. But the Canon R1 is certainly a body I can't wait to see released this year. While we're talking about flagship camera bodies, I can't go any further without talking about the Sony A1 Mark II. Now, the Sony A1 Mark I was a massive success for Sony, and it kind of redefined a lot of what we come to expect from mirrorless cameras in this day and age. It was a massive, massive success for the company and is a highly impressive piece of tech. Now, in terms of the Mark II, if that's the name that it was given, there's a chance we might see that towards the back end of 2024. My gut and everything I've read online kind of says this is more likely to be early to mid 25, but certainly an announcement in 2024 can, I'm not going to say it's anywhere near assured, but I'd be more confident that towards the fall maybe we might see an announcement that the Mark II is on its way. The Mark I was released 3 years ago in January of 2021, so it feels about right in terms of that 3-4 year product cycle a lot of these flagship bodies have. So we're not going to be too far away, but whether it comes in just inside 2024 or into 25, I don't know. As I said, I'm going to err on the side of caution and say we're likely to see it released in 25, but who knows. As we're talking about flagship camera bodies, let me just touch on the Nikon Z9. This was an incredible piece of kit, but it is barely 2 years old. But that said, there is some suggestions and speculation online that we will see a successor, possibly called the Z or Z, depending on where you're from. The Z9H could be the name, or the Z9 Mark II. We could see it before the Olympic Games this summer. Personally, I don't think there's much chance of that at all. We might see an announcement that one of these is in development, or the successor is in development towards the very end of 2024. Even that, I think, will be a stretch, but as we're talking about flagship bodies, I thought it worth dropping that in here. Sticking with Nikon though, I am going to look at very quickly the Z6 Mark II and what that potential successor should look like. Now, in terms of the year 2024, I think this is most likely where Nikon are going to kind of focus their time and energies in getting a new body out. When it was released back in 2020, the Z6 was a massive success for the company and really helped kind of that below the professional tier to kind of, again, get that market share heading back in the right direction. They will now be eager to add to that and build on that success. And I think we will see a successor to the Z6 this year, that being the Z6 Mark III or the Z6 Mark III. Let's see what the year brings. I don't think this is going to be dependent at all on the Olympic Games like some of those flagship bodies. I think we're more likely to see probably towards the back end of this year an announcement maybe in the fall with a winter release a month or so later than that. But certainly I think we will see this successor drop this year. Next up, let's touch on the possibility of a Canon R5 Mark II dropping this year. When I spoke about the R1 earlier, I mentioned a global shutter and how speculation has gone to and against whether that'll be included on the R1. Well, it's a similar story in terms of an R5 Mark II. Again, this is one of the bodies some are speculating that might have that global shutter as a bit of a test case for Canon. The R5 obviously kind of aimed less or at a lower level than the professional flagship bodies. It's a hugely important body for Canon. They'll want to get it right. We are due a reboot of this. So the R5 Mark II, I think, probably will come out this year as well. That will be a very big year for Canon with the R1 dropping as well. But I do think we will see both of these bodies. Now, some are suggesting the R5 Mark II might take priority by way of development time or focus in terms of getting it out than the R1. I don't believe that'll be the case. I think Canon will be desperate to hit the R1 before the Summer Olympic Games. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if they do both drop in the first 6 months of 2024. Another body we should see a successor for in 2024 is the Canon A7S Mark II, and I expect the Mark III will probably join us at some point in 2024. Now, the original release that was back in 2020, October 2020, that was a great success with videographers and people who do YouTube channels and all sorts of different types of video, as well as having a really great kind of range of functionality as far as stills are concerned. Now, there has been some advancements in other Sony models since the last A7S Mark II came out. Bodies such as the FX3, the FX6 and the ZV-E1 all offered some advancements, but none of them were actually successors to the A7S II. Like most other bodies on this list, if this drops, like I think it probably will, or we'll certainly hear a lot more about what the successor to the Mark II looks like. I think this will be towards the back end of the year, certainly at the other end of the summer. And that's it. They're the main bodies I wanted to cover. It's going to be a really exciting year in terms of camera tech and camera body releases. There is so much speculation. It's a market in terms of the technology that is moving so rapidly now with the mirrorless cameras. Let's see what 2024 brings. And tell me in the comments which camera body you are most looking forward to. And if I haven't mentioned it on this video, please drop it in below and let's have a look what we're all gunning for, and I will see you on the next video.